On this one, no. I just invited you, so it's just a conversation between us.
Okay.
If you wanted to open it up to other folks, I could restart it and do that.
It's okay. It's up to you.
Okay. I think this is good. This will be good. This way we can focus.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome everyone. I'm back with Carlo, and we've kind of been wanting to explore a little bit about the proper way or the best way to motivate vegans, and uh, we both agree that there's quite a bit of like negativity within the vegan scene itself, and we're wondering how much that actually serves the movement. So, could you say a few words on that, Carlo? Like, what is the best way to motivate vegans?
Right. You Paul. You know my opinion about veganism. Um, Veganism is not a diet. Is an ethical worldview, if you will, an ethical worldview. That's really the way veganism was born, and the term veganism was coined, really, you know, to
Yeah,
indicate a worldview in which human beings realize that animals are not our property. So that's why veganism means that if you're a vegan, you don't not only do you not eat animal products, but also you don't use leather, feathers, anything that comes from animals. So you
right.
are against the exploitation of animals. And it seems to me that lately, especially on YouTube, um, this message, this core message, this idea of veganism that I just expressed has been abandoned or forgotten for some reason. And I wanted to say, as you know, YouTube in the last 5 or 10 years has become a very powerful platform, um, because lots of people follow, millions of people follow YouTubers, these people who are like you have a channel on YouTube. And this makes me think about, I don't know if where you live in Virginia, you have these advertisements, these posters. But here in New York, you have it on the subway and all around the city. You have YouTube and certain YouTube personalities, and on the bottom they list the number of viewers, and sometimes they're spectacular. There are some people. There are these girls who have YouTube channels about makeup or about cooking, and they have 5 million views. I mean, 5 million subscribers, and
Right.
5 million, 10 million views, uh, 10 million subscribers. It's amazing. Now, my point is, you see how many people subscribe to these YouTube channels, and how many people follow uh, to the T what they say. And I'm sure you know some people, many people, in fact, follow these YouTube channels about veganism, supposedly, allegedly about veganism, and they actually, as I suggested to you, they worship them, because what happens is you go on YouTube, you watch a video, as you know, everybody knows, you're allowed to make comments, and sometimes you make a comment, you are attacked by other people who defend the YouTuber, the owner of the channel. So it's a pretty serious business. People are making money, by the way. I forgot to mention this. People also Also, they do it, most of them, primarily as a source of income, because you're allowed to monetize, right, YouTube channels. So what happens? They have these YouTube channels. They allegedly want to spread the message of veganism. But what I noticed personally, and that's the reason why we are having this discussion, is that instead of spreading veganism, they use their channels to well, let me give you specific examples. There is this channel, Durian Riders, who originally um, started his channel. My understanding is, I didn't follow him. I don't follow him, so I watched videos here and there. But a couple of years ago, I think, he started, and he was talking about his diet, his vegan diet. I don't think he ever explained what veganism is. Well, I mean, roughly, he said, "This is what you do. You eat lots of fruit, you eat vegetables." I noticed that he changed his diet, which is fine. You know, he went from a 100% raw vegan diet, eating only fruit and vegetables, to a what they call now raw tier 4, which is you eat fruit and vegetables all day, and then after 4, for dinner, you eat cooked food. That's totally fine. And then from that, I noticed that there were meetings such as Woodstock Fruit Festival. I never sounds interesting. I never joined them. I think it's too expensive. I mean, at least for me, it's expensive because as you know, I have a family, 3 children, and a wife. It would be very expensive. But it sounds interesting. So my understanding is that this guy was part of involved in Woodstock Fruit Festival. They paid him. I think there was money involved, right? They paid him to go there and to talk to people, and so there's this other guy that Graham. What's his name? Doug Graham.
Right.
He's the author of several books about veganism, and he's strictly he's an older guy. I don't know how old he is. He's strictly 100% raw vegan, and then my understanding is that these 2 guys, Durian Ryder and Doug Graham, had an argument. I don't know for what reason. We can get into it. I have no idea. Mostly because of the messages of Durian Ryder. So they kicked him out of. Bottom line, they kicked him out of Woodstock Fruit Festival, and of course Durian Ryder got mad. So now every other video of Durian Ryder is an attack to this guy Graham, and not only Doug Graham, but other people who, according to him, and I'm not saying that he's lying, maybe it's true, according to him, stabbed him in the back. And well, that's a normal reaction. We're human beings. I understand that. But the point is, now you're turning your channel, who is followed by millions of people, I understand, into your way of perpetrating your personal vendetta. So you're talking about other people. Well, for example, he talked about the death of the comedian Robin Williams, and he made I watched one of the videos. I think he made several. Watched one of the videos where he talks about his death because he was a loser, something in that regard. I don't know. I think it's more complicated than that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I totally.
If people have mental problems, they have mental problems. It's a serious business. To dismiss it just by saying, you know, he was just crazy, he was a loser, he failed, I think. Well, not only is it not nice, you know, to talk to people with problems, but, you know, there are all sorts of things that are wrong. Very oversimplified. Another video, in other videos, for example, he attacks this guy, Lockman. What's his first name? Lauren?
Yeah.
You interview this guy. I like him. I disagree with him on many things. I agree with on some things. I disagree with many things. That's how it is, you know. That's the gentlemanly way of talking to people. You know, you as Aristotle said, you know, the sign of an intelligent mind is one who's able to entertain certain ideas without necessarily having to accept those ideas. So you listen to people, you disagree. If you disagree, at least this is in my business, in philosophy, you read articles and papers, or you hear people giving arguments, logical arguments, okay? And generally in philosophy, of course, in philosophy is more technical because you really have arguments with premises and a conclusion. So you disagree with a person, you have to tell the other person, the interlocutor, which of the premises that you have stated is wrong if you disagree. You can't just say, I disagree with you. It's a scam. In this case that we're talking about Lauren Lockman, who promotes, as you know, fasting. Okay? When I myself, I have to tell you, Paul, when I myself stumbled upon Lauren Lockman's channel, I heard a few videos, and I heard his ideas about fasting, and I said to myself, that sounds nuts. But then my mind, my trained mind as a philosopher said, but wait a minute. Slavery, right? When they got rid of slavery, the idea was nuts. When they proposed the idea that women are equal to men and they are supposed to vote too and have rights, it was nuts. Many of the ideas in history were nuts, and the problem is exactly that we are acculturated, we are programmed by society to accept certain ideas and reject other ideas. There are not the mainstream ideas. Veganism is a pretty extreme idea. So that's why you get so much resistance from people. You say, oh, I don't want to eat I don't want to eat like a rabbit. I don't want to eat just grass and tofu, which is false because, as you know, you don't have to. And again, when I heard this message, I said to myself, well, wait a minute. Before you say, Carlo, before you say it's nuts, think about it. Listen to the man. Sure, if he makes money, he makes money out of it. But I mean, I don't think if you have a YouTube channel and you make money, I understand. You make money because you're paid by advertising on your channel McDonald's. It seems to me it's not a. I don't expect this to be a particularly telling argument. But if you make money out of McDonald's, why do you criticize a person who has an established facility where he fasts people? It seems strange to me. I mean, don't do it because how do you know? You have to investigate. You don't know the man. You don't know the situation. You don't know the techniques. You this is what I always tell my students. When you hear, I teach philosophy. When you hear weird ideas, ideas that you think they're weird, okay. Um, Sometimes we talk about, for example, Paul, we talk about quantum physics, and the ideas in quantum physics are weird, very weird. I mean, they're counterintuitive. When they tell you that a particle exists in two different places in the universe at the same time, that obviously is crazy. And other things like that, if you know a little bit about quantum physics, you know what I'm talking about. So instead of laughing regarding the idea as silly, this is what I tell my students. Don't laugh, because there are people who dedicate their lives thinking about these ideas. So maybe they're not so crazy, not so silly after all. So you have to put some time, some thought into it. But you don't put any thought into it. So in this case, the guy doesn't really look into fasting. How can you really criticize it?
Okay, let me address that a little bit, Carlos. So,
Yes.
you know, one thing is if I'm not mistaken, both Durian Ryder and Freely have done a little bit of fasting on their own. I don't know how much, but they've done a little bit. And uh, through the website they've operated, they've been aware of these fasting institutions for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And because Durian Ryder was fairly close with Doug Graham for a significant amount of time, he was familiar with Doug Graham's inclusion of fasting in his approach.
Yeah.
So he does know something about fasting. And I'll suggest this to you. What I think he has decided is that because simply doing a raw food diet, or what now they call raw till 4, because that's so healthy on its own, and because so many people have psychological / emotional issues with weight loss and dieting, uh, he doesn't want to direct people towards fasting. Now that's a position he can take. Uh, I What I disagree with is going beyond that and then totally negating somebody like Loren Lockman's work. I mean, Loren Lockman has been teaching people to be vegan and helping people overcome illness for a long time, for even before Durian Ryder became a vegan. So I think Loren Lockman has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and you can't just dismiss it. And you can't dismiss it or even Doug Graham's work because one person who goes on a fast has a bad experience. And I'm
Yeah.
sure people will respond, there's more than one person that has. Well, yeah, maybe there's some people throughout the history of fasting institutions that have had
There
issues.
are a lot of people who go vegan and have bad experiences.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and if we compare it to conventional medicine, you know, fasting and veganism is far superior. So, you know, and when I interview people who do a lot of fasting, one of my questions is, you know, why should someone fast if they can improve so much on simply diet? And, you know, one of the answers I hear is that, for one thing, even if you're on, say, even a really clean raw food diet for a significant amount of time, you can still benefit by fasting, which I think Grant Campbell's an example of that. He'd been raw food for I think over a year,
Uh-huh.
and he went and did a fast, and he greatly improved his athletic performance. So,
A
and,
runner?
pardon?
Is he a runner?
Yeah, yeah, he does the long distance running.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's an Australian, and you might find him interesting. Very, very nice guy. Now he's closely associated with Doug Graham, um, but he's a real sweet guy. I like him a lot. Now apparently he was present when this last situation occurred with this girl who had difficulties on her fast. But I guess you know, one of the things that's important to me, I really value natural hygiene and this tradition of natural hygiene, which
Mm-hmm.
was promoting healthy diet, which was very clean, if not vegan, very close to vegan, and then these basic principles of health like sunshine, adequate sleep, clean air, clean water, you know, basic principles which we kind of take for granted now, but they
That's how
were
I
doing.
got into veganism, by the way. When I told you when I was 14, I didn't know about the term veganism. I had no idea what that meant. Probably I don't know when it was coined as a term, but when I was a teenager, I had a friend who who spent some time with in a temple, in I think it was a Buddhist temple, and he learned natural hygiene. He was telling me about it. I said, "Wow, that's interesting." And he said, "I had to run away because, man, they don't put salt in anything. They don't cook anything. They just go to sleep early." And that was attractive to me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, there were folks promoting this like 100 years ago,
hmm
and you can imagine the resistance they met.
Oh,
So, and a big component or a significant component of a lot of the natural hygiene approach was fasting. And uh, fasting, in a therapeutic sense, you could say, is even more valuable for someone like a sad eater who's likely to have chronic ailments. And there's an excellent book if you're interested. It's Dr. Herbert Shelton was a natural hygienist and a
mhm.
strong advocate of fasting, and he wrote a beautiful book. It's called The Science and Fine Art of Fasting. And it's amazing what can happen over the course of a fast. People who have cancerous tumors, they begin fasting, and the tumor slowly
It's amazing.
diminishes,
I heard
diminishes.
these things.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now,
I will definitely recommend fasting um, to a person, to a sad person, really messed up, overweight, and wants to. That's I think it would be the best way to start anew and regenerate your body. You know,
yes,
that's really what you need to clean your system and then start slowly building up again. Yeah,
I
the
think
only
there's
way.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I do think, you know, one thing that this is my conclusion. I don't know if it's correct about Durian Rider and Freely, but a big part of their demographic is young girls who want to lose weight.
Oh, I see.
Now, if that's like a primary theme for them, the issues that you run into a lot are like anorexia and bulimia. Okay, you don't want girls that have anorexic tendencies getting into fasting,
Well, certainly not.
right? So it's kind of like there are some dynamics that can make fasting an issue for people whose primary concern is losing weight. And Durian Ryder talks about a phenomena which occurs that when you do fast, the body becomes
Uh-huh.
very efficient at processing nutrients, so that when you break the fast, the body is in like overdrive to gain the weight back, and the body will gain weight back at a rapid pace. So one of the key issues is if you are going to use fasting in a therapeutic sense, you've got to break the fast and maintain a healthy diet after you do the fast. So, so you could argue that it's almost more important that people establish themselves in a healthy diet prior to fasting, so that it's not going to be an issue. And I'm sure you're familiar with. There's a lot of folks who, like you've stated, you know, they go on diets and it's a temporary thing. You know, they diet and then they flip flop back. So if you've
Yes.
got somebody who's kind of a little bit sad, and then they're trying veganism, and then they're going back to sad, and then they try fasting, and they start binging after they fast on unhealthy foods, you can imagine what kind of problems can happen. So, but in general, I agree with your premise, and I don't think we can dismiss the fact that fasting helps a lot of people, has helped a lot of people, and has actually saved lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a superior treatment to conventional medicine, which is invasive via surgery and medication. So there's a power inherent in the body that's more sophisticated than any externally invasive program. If you leave, this is a big principle in natural hygiene, if you leave the body alone, it will heal itself. Exactly. And you could say, you know, some of the folks you study were some of the first folks who used fasting in a medical sense. I think, isn't Hippocrates is one of the Greeks? That's this famous Hippocrates Health Institute's named after Hippocrates. Now they're not totally natural hygienists, and they go off on different tangents. But you know, fasting's been around for a long time. Not only
yes. I mean, it's not a new thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting, there are some other aspects to it besides health. You know, of course, in the past, one of the common reasons for fasting was a spiritual motivation. And what people found is that if they fasted, there are certain things that occur in the psychology. There's kind of a clarity of thinking, a kind of slowing down, a transition to more introspection when you're fasting, which lends itself to introspection and you know, working through personal identity in terms of philosophy and spirituality.
It makes sense because when your body doesn't have to process food and work, and digest, you're very light, and your head is very sharp.
Exactly.
Also, another reason fasting is used, I suggested, is it's used. It's not. This is not told. It's not. It's kind of a secret. But athletes, many athletes, especially runners, use fasting. Use fasting.
You mentioned this in our
Because I do it too. Not long periods of fasting, but I do fasting too, because I learned this from the masters. You train your body, but these things are not told because they would be nuts. Canyon runners are not going to tell you, yes, we fast, because people, number one, they're not going to believe them, and it sounds nuts. But that's what you do if you want your body. You know, in running, basically, it's a competitive sport, so you want to maximize, and you want to find all kinds of possible ways to make your body, to push your body. Okay, so if you, for example, you read magazines about running. There's a famous one, Runner's World. There are other magazines, articles, blogs. And when they get these questions, what do I eat before I go running? They say, oh, well, eat light, eat a bagel, and eggs, and cheese, and this, and that. I don't eat anything. No professional runner eats a meal before a running session. You go out with empty stomach, and that allows you, first of all, to burn fats. Second of all, to make your body stronger, because the body doesn't have food. So you see what I mean? You put your body in this situation where it says, oh my God, I got to get stronger next time because I have no fuel. So So when you do have fuel, you're really powerful.
And is the thing behind burning fats that you want the body to be as light as possible, so it'll be faster?
in running, there is this. The most important thing about running is one. Well, it's VO2 max. Okay, it's the uptake of oxygen. The more oxygen, the more red blood cells, the more oxygen you can carry to the muscles, better performance. That's why these Kenyans and people who run fast because their VO2 max, that's what it's called, the capacity of carrying oxygen to the muscles is very high. And one of the ways to improve your VO2 max is by losing weight. That's why runners are so light. They lose weight, and what I mean actually more specifically, to reduce the percentage, the body fat percentage. If you have very low fat, your VO2 max goes up. There are other ways, of course. Drugs, training.
Can you describe this fasting, the way a advanced runner uses fasting to enhance performance?
Well, number one, you would run first thing in the morning. You would train an empty stomach. You drink water, not a lot of water, because when you train, you don't want to have a lot of swooshing in your stomach.
Yeah.
That's all you have. And one very effective way, for example, is what it's called in running, jargon. It's called the tempo run or threshold run. It's basically you run at a speed that is specifically just right below your maximum heart rate. And what that does is, one thing, it improves your VO2 max, as I said, and it burns fat. All runners, competitive runners, think about that. They have to reduce their body fat, their weight, so they have to.
How do you know that you're in that right zone? How do you use?
Oh well, there are tests you can do. Right nowadays, there are very accurate tests online. There is one. There's a website by this guy. He was an Olympian and a PhD, so he researches too, a scientist too, and a coach, one of the best in the world. His name is like the alcoholic beverages, Jack Daniels. Look it up, Jack Daniels, and he has a calculator which is very accurate. And you put your information, your heart rate. You go to the doctors, you have your pressure measured. You put the information, and that tells you everything about your training. Your threshold run, that is also called threshold.
Do you, Carlo, wear a Garmin or a device that measures a distance and pace for you?
I just have a watch that gives me pace and mileage. That's it. I'm old school. I don't. But also because I've been doing it for years, so I know what I'm doing. That stuff is useful when you first start, but then you learn to listen to your body, because sometimes pace doesn't mean anything. Some days, the weather conditions dictate your pace and everything else, your heart rate. So sometimes you can go out for a run and you clocking 5 minutes per mile, and your heart rate is in a good range, in a regular range. But sometimes you go out, it's too humid or it's too hot, and you're doing 5 minutes, but your heart rate is too high. So you're going to accomplish the same thing with 6 or 7 minute pace. a mile, right? Um, that's an important thing that many runners don't understand, and then so they go out running. They instead of accomplishing something, they uh, they uh, they don't accomplish anything, and actually it ended up being a counterproductive training because you're not running at the um, the pace that maximizes and improves your fitness. And I see a lot of runners in that situation, especially more heavy guys or girls who run and above their heart rate, their maximum heart rate, and that's very counterproductive. It's not going to put you in good health. It destroys your health, and that's why many who run don't understand why they don't lose weight. They don't, and they feel bad. Their bodies are sore. That's why, because they're not thinking of their training, exactly what they're doing.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
But what I was saying about professional runners is they do things that are crazy to the normal person, normal runner. Like, for example, going out for a 10-mile run without eating anything. But that's what they do, and you can think about it. It's logical, you know. You stressing your body, and that's how you achieve fitness. I mean, sometimes it's not fitness; it's craziness. But that's how you become a fast runner, by stressing your body, because your body responds to stress, and you fast, empty stomach, you run, you produce a response that the next time that you do that training again, you can do it very strong, you do it better. You still have an empty stomach. You haven't eaten anything, and you teach your body to burn your fat.
So when you say fasting, Carlo, do you kind of mean just skipping breakfast, or would you ever?
Well, sometimes I skip breakfast and I skip lunch, so that's a longer period.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't do fasting like 10 days a month. It's not. Number one, I don't think is necessary because I'm very healthy.
Yeah.
Fasting is in fact a good tool, a useful tool for people who are unhealthy and to restore their health. Okay? So
Right.
that's why I don't do it. Secondly, I don't do it because with my life, you know, I run a lot, and then I teach all night, all day. Can't do that. I have to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to say about fasting and attacking people who fast is that a point made by Durian Ryder, in fact, is that if you're really interested in fasting, well, then do it at home. Don't give money to, because that's his beef, basically. That these people are con artists because they charge money. The way he puts it, yes, it sounds like they're ripping you off because you pay for a bed and a glass of water. Yes, but think about it. If you do it at home, in your own home, you're not going to do it because you're going to open the fridge. You have a fridge. You have food. You open the cabinet. There are cookies. You have a stove. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it, period. Now, if you go to a place where they don't have a stove, they see over you. They give you water. They give you fruits, and they make sure that you don't eat. They entertain you. I don't know what they do. I have no idea. But I suppose they don't have fruit. They don't have food around the house. Let's say that you want to do it at home, right? And you tell your wife, honey, I'm fasting. Okay. First time she puts something on the stove, she cooks some sauce, some pasta, some mushrooms. You smell that. What do you want to do? Continue fasting or eat? So
let me.
you have to do it right under the supervision of people like Lauren Lockman, whoever does it, right? In specific facilities where you don't have food around, you don't see food, you don't have a stove, a fridge.
Yeah. Let me throw a couple of points in. There's some truth to what During Rider says in that you can fast it. You can fast at home. You can do, I would say a 3-day fast, even a 5-day fast can be done on your own at home with some benefit. What's nice about these centers is that, especially if you're doing a lengthy fast, if you're going to do 10, 20 days, it's good to have somebody who's going to monitor you while you're doing that. And the other thing that's nice about these centers is people who advocate fasting, they're not only talking about a physiological rest from digestion, they're also talking about a sensory stimuli rest. So when you go to a fasting center, you're not going there so much to be entertained. You're going there to totally turn inward and let the body heal and kind of take the sensory stimulation out of your life. And the other thing that often happens at these centers is that there's a lot of educating. So now when you're fasting, especially a lengthy fast, what happens is you start to you don't have tons of energy, right? And this is another thing. If you're going to do a fast beyond 5 days, and you're trying to work or you're trying to keep up with daily activities, I know people who have done it, but the longer
you can't function well.
The longer you do it, the weaker you get.
Yes.
So the body, there is some strengthening if there's a cleansing process, but at some point you start to lose energy, and you really just need to be in bed resting if you're not going to be eating. And you do need to be drinking plenty of water. But the fact that you occasionally get these issues, even at these fasting centers, indicates that for people that want to do long fasting, it's a good idea to be somewhere where people can monitor you. For people that are trying to save money and can't afford that, there are options whereby the folks who run these facilities, like Lauren Lockman, he can supervise a home fast via the internet or telephone. So he can kind of monitor you off-site, so to speak. So that is an option if you want to have some professional monitoring but not pay the full amount of actually going to one of these places.
Well, certainly if you do it in a place like that, in a facility, another point that you forgot to mention is that you're not alone. You are surrounded by other people, and it's an emotional support that you get that you don't get at home. Alone in your home, calling Lauren Lockman or whatever. You have other people like you. I think it's very powerful when you do that.
Yeah, if you read the history of it and what was accomplished, it's unbelievable, the diseases people overcome. So it's powerful tool, and I think it's silly it's a kind of ignorance to completely dismiss it because some people occasionally have issues with it. And there's another interesting thing. I'll tell you, when I was in my 20s, I had this idea. I was going to drive around to these various fasting facilities and interview the folks who ran them. And I did actually go to a couple of them, one of which is not far from you. It was called the Pauling Health Manor. It was in near Hyde Park, New York.
Oh.
And I went in and interviewed the guy, who's since passed away. He was pretty old when I interviewed him. And he told me some amazing anecdotes. One of which was that, you know, people turn to fasting as a last resort. So oftentimes they're in a very precarious state of health by the time they actually come to fasting. And there was one person who, if I'm not mistaken, the person brought this sick person to the center, and they were essentially dead in the car when they arrived at the Fasting Institute. So that gives you an idea of what fasting centers are working with. They're often getting these folks who have been
damaged.
They're damaged, and they've even tried conventional medicine, which has failed them. So they're oftentimes in a very bad state by the time they get to a fasting institute. Now you also have another demographic, which is just folks like you and I who are, say, vegan or into a lot of raw food, and they hear about fasting and they want to improve performance, and there's that demographic as well. But a lot of folks who are willing to take a month out to do like a 40-day fast, they're doing it because they've got a serious illness, you know. So just throwing that in there.
Yeah, and so just not to forget our point, the point of this discussion that we just had, the main point is this is the message of some YouTubers who attack, criticize fasting. And the point was, this is not a way to promote veganism.
Thank you.
It's not a way to promote veganism. That was the point. So making videos criticizing these other people who are genuinely, at least I don't know them, I don't know Lauren Lockman, but I think he's a genuine guy, and he really wants to people to become vegans.
Right.
He has his own thing, which is fasting. Now, to criticize him, you see, it's wrong because people who are contemplating becoming vegans watch this and think vegans are crazy, and that's proof, because they can't even agree with one another, and it's all about criticizing, and so forget it. I don't even want to think about veganism. That was one of the questions, you know, the issues in our talk.
Yeah.
How to bring people to veganism? Well, that's not the way to bring people to veganism.
Well, this is a huge question, and I'm in agreement with you. I favor a more a considered and respectful interaction between vegans of different stripes. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that we can't have discussions about what is the best vegan approach and what has worked best for one person and what are their theories and reasonings behind their particular approach to veganism, as long as it doesn't become this kind of attack, this kind of vicious, hateful kind of energy, which I think you're right. I think it gives a negative tone to the whole movement for someone who's just, say, some sad eater stumbles on one of these extremely negative videos. You know, it gives them a bad impression of veganism. And I don't know if you saw it, but I did a little video.
And let me say something about this too. This was another point that I made in the beginning of my talk. Once again, another problem is all I hear from YouTubers, these YouTubers, is eat this, don't eat that, this is better, that's worse, okay, that's poison, that's good. And once again, that is not the best way to promote veganism, because I understand that people get into veganism for different reasons, but that's not the point of veganism. So they portray veganism as a diet, and when you talk to people about diet, well, I can try that diet. I can try the vegan diet. I tried the paleo first. Now let me try the vegan. No, 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 no. That's wrong. Veganism is not a diet. Now, if you're not a vegan, you watch these videos. What do you get from the videos? That veganism is a diet. Because these people talk about food all the time. I drink my smoothies. I do this. I make the you know, the zucchini
Spiral.
yeah, Alfredo sauce. Come on, give me a break. The zucchini Alfredo sauce. If you're not a vegan and you want to approach veganism because you heard something good, you see these things, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're attracted to that stuff. Who wants to drink a smoothie with 20 bananas? I don't think, and as I said, my problem is that's not the point of veganism. The point of veganism is not the diet what you eat. It's what you don't eat. You don't eat animals. Why? Because if you put it in terms of a diet, then animals are just food. So in terms of a diet, well, there is a better food, which is fruit, but animal is still food. Now, if you don't come to terms with the fact that animals really are living organisms, have feelings, have families, and suffer, you will try maybe the vegan diet, and then when it doesn't work for you because you're doing it wrong, you're eating 20 bananas in a smoothie and you feel like crap, right? The first time you say, oh, and you know how people are. People are ignorant, Paul. They do that. They do, oh, I tried veganism. It didn't work for you. How many times you heard that? And it pisses you off because what do you mean you tried a veganism, it didn't work? What didn't work? You know, oh, well, I had 20 bananas and I put sugar in it because I saw in the video this guy was putting a pound of sugar in bananas. First of all, it's yucky. I don't want to eat that every day. Of course. You are justified. Of course you don't want to eat that every day. And so what do? You go back to the food that you were eating before, that society told you to eat, which is meat, and you didn't learn anything about veganism. You're going to say to yourself, okay, you think meat is bad? Fine. But at least my body works fine when I eat meat. I don't have to eat 20 bananas and just eat a steak and pasta and I'm done. And so you go back to the said diet because you did not learn what veganism is. You learned a distorted version, a false version of veganism, which is, for the way they portray it in these videos, is a diet, just another diet.
Well, let me throw in a couple of points. First of all, somebody said something to me early on when I transitioned to vegan, and I thought it was pretty wise. I was going heavily into this species-specific thing and trying to find this connection between primate evolution and humans, and I thought that's the key to proving we are vegans, you know. And the guy said to me, look, there's three major routes that people become vegan. One is health, one is ethics, and one is the environment. And you can appeal to people on one or two or all three of these issues. What he was suggesting was you find out what resonates for this person, and that's the way you address it. Now, the problem is the practical issue with what you're saying. I would say is that most people, the majority of folks who are out there considering different diets are doing so for personal health reasons, and even more superficial than that is weight.
Yeah.
They want to lose weight. So I think it's a conscious decision, like on Durian Rider's part and Freely's part. They're trying to address this huge mass of folks who just want to lose weight and have a nice looking body. And the hope is that once somebody's vegan long enough, they'll be introduced to the ethical principles which you advocate so strongly, which are really the anchor, the bedrock, the way that you. It's really a higher perspective. When you're on the ethical perspective, it's a more noble thing. It's selfless. It's not about what this does for me, although indirectly, you know, getting rid of this animal industry will benefit us on an individual level, but at least in the immediate sense, it's selfless to stop eating animals so that they won't be killed. You know, to stop eating animals so that I lose weight is, you could say, a selfish choice. It's a self-motivated reason, right? So this is what I think. There's the practicality of what interests people, you know.
But you see, what do you suggested three reasons why people go vegan, right? Health. You said ethics, and the third one was
environment.
Environment. And you see, here's the problem. Without the ethical component, the other two reasons, the environment and the health, are subject to change. And what I mean is this: if you, for example, do it for health, at one point you can, for example, forget about health. Say, screw health, I don't care about health. In fact, look how many people smoke. They understand that smoking is bad, but they do it because, who cares? I want to live my life that way. I want to take the risk, but enjoy life. And of course, they think they're enjoying life, but they have a false value, you know, that of smoking, which is not enjoyment. Their sense of enjoyment is, I would say, it was corrupted by false things like smoking. But anyway, you see that you can change your mind. With regard to environment, same thing. You can be passionate about the environment, but then you see what happens is that every day you see how the environment is raped, right? And you can maybe continue being an environmentalist, or at what point you say, you know what, you can. It's easy in society, especially in a large society like the United States. It's easier to become a moral nihilist or nihilist, okay? Which means you just you get to the point where there's so much evil and so much disrespect for the environment and other people that you become uninterested,
apathetic,
in morality anymore. So you say, you know what, the environment is going to go to hell, okay, anyway. Doesn't matter what I do, so let him go to hell. And you many people embrace this moral, ethical view, moral nihilism. Just don't care. So as you can see, the key is morality. It always goes back to morality, not diet or environment or whatever else. And when you have that in place, and you understand what veganism is in the first place, I think it's harder to change your mind when you realize that you suffer, the animals suffer just like your child, okay, then it's kind of hard to go back and say, well, I don't care about their suffering. Screw them. That's why it's probably the key. Not probably. I think it is the key. It is the key because that's something that once established doesn't go away, doesn't change. The diet, the environment. Well, the environment is an ethical issue anyway, and the health is really not a good one because the health. Because another point that I want to make is that with regard to health, how many people you know, in fact, Paul, who dispute the health issue, and they say that doesn't apply to me. I don't have to become a vegan because I'm not a sad. I eat well. I don't eat a lot of meat. I eat fish. Sometimes, occasionally, you hear these things every day. You hear these people every day. It doesn't apply to me because I eat well. I eat fish once a week, chicken occasionally, and beef. I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork, but I eat eggs, and I feel well. I go to the doctors. In fact, there are a lot of people whose bodies function well eating meat. Their cholesterol level is fine, their B12 is fine, and they actually come to you with an argument saying, actually, you vegan are deficient because you don't have B12, and I have B12 because I drink milk. So, who's healthier now?
Well, I think one of the nice things is we have finally a good bit of solid evidence coming in from doctors like McDougall, Esselstyn, Barnard,
but they're disputed.
Colin Campbell. So
the problem is that they're disputed. People don't believe them. It is not enough. I don't think there's enough scientific evidence. I mean, I think there is enough scientific evidence, overwhelming scientific evidence, but unfortunately that overwhelming scientific evidence is buried under the crap, the propaganda, the meat-eating propaganda. You know, and
you know what, Carlo, you're reminding me of. There's a principle in the Eastern tradition which says, and I know you're an atheist, so forgive me this analogy, but I think you might find it useful. So in Hinduism, there are these various paths to God, okay? Mm-hmm. And one path is the path of service, where you serve your fellow man selflessly. Another path.
Are there 8?
Pardon? Are
they 8 paths?
There's 4 that I'm thinking of in this case, but okay. And so one is service to humans. One is devotion to God. That's what they call bhakti, where you sing songs or you perform rituals that you put flowers on the altar. This is a devotional way of getting to God. There's what's called the jnana approach, which is through study and self-inquiry, whereby you reach union with God. And there's another one would be yoga. You know, the quote-unquote physical practice of yoga is a path to God. So and one of the things I used to think was if someone's really enthusiastic about getting to God, they're going to do all 4. They're going to do all of them. So the reason of having these 4 variations is to suit the variety of temperaments within society, so that every temperament has a path. But for someone who's really eager to get there, they're going to get there fastest by applying all 4 at once. So and that's I'm using this analogy. You know, if I agree with you that occasionally there's going to be someone who comes to veganism for health reasons, and for some reason it doesn't work for them, and they go back to the sad diet. I think that sometimes happens. However, I think there's a significant number who come to veganism through health, and they remain vegan. And some of them are coming from the traditional medical system that has failed them. Some of them are starting to see this data coming out from McDougall and Barnard and Esselstyn that these vegan clients they have get all of their numbers back into the proper level, all of their blood numbers. Basically, Esselstyn's talking about reversing heart disease. Heart disease, the #1 killer. These are ethical and moral issues when we're talking about the money involved and the suffering involved. Health is a huge industry. I think it's important, and I agree with you that this ethical respect for animals, the recognition of them as sentient beings, is the most powerful and noble reason. But that is not going to prevent me from inviting people through health reasons if those are available as well, and if those are more resonant for the person I'm talking to.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I agree with you. Only, the point is that unfortunately, the health issue is disputed by people. It's disputed.
Right.
One,
Right.
because the lay people do not understand science. They do not know. Many people, as you know, are not capable of recognizing what is science and what is pseudoscience, what is an opinion and what is science, what's something that comes from a peer-reviewed journal and something that comes from a blog. So that's the issue. It's although I think there's overwhelming evidence that the vegan diet is way better than any other diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this resistance from people because they just don't believe it. They don't believe it. It's disputed. They feel good. They have other friends who feel good who eat meat. And then, of course, it's even more complicated than that because, as you know, vegan. Just to say that you're a vegan doesn't mean much in the sense that you can be a vegan and eat Twinkies, vegan Twinkies, for lunch, breakfast, and dinner.
Well, and I referenced this in a brief video I did the other day titled "Vegans Unite." I don't know if you saw that. Vegans Unite, and my point is, it doesn't matter if you're a paleo vegan, a Oreo and Cheetos vegan, an ethical vegan, an environmental vegan, a healthy vegan. If you're a high carb, high fruit vegan, if you're a cooked food vegan, these things we need to unite and take down this animal industry. Yeah.
But you see, then you need the ethical component to do that, because you have to tell people, well, you want to eat Twinkies, maybe it's not the best, but it's good because you're not murdering animals.
Right.
And by the way, this brings me to another point that I want to talk about, that I think you want to talk about too. We talked about the way in which these people who are followed, the YouTubers who are followed by millions of people, waste their time criticizing other people and making silly videos instead of spreading the vegan message. And the other point that we wanted to discuss probably is this idea put there by vegans that cooked food is poison. Cooked food is poison. Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, that is not very conducive in the way of promoting the vegan culture. It's a way of saying people we're nuts. If you're not a vegan, you watch this and you say, wait a minute, I thought that being a vegan is good. Now I watch this video and this guy's telling me that cooked food, to stay away from cooked food. What? See what I'm saying, Paul?
Yes, I do. And it's an issue I try to address. I try to address it while still valuing people who choose a raw food vegan diet. So, this is the title of my channel. It's Raw and Cooked Vegan, and the whole premise originally was to find a bridge between these apparently disparate groups. That it seemed that there was this wall being formed between raw food vegans and cooked food vegans, and it's it doesn't serve our greater objective, which is getting rid of an animal product industry, right? So
right, that's the main point. And what do? You just creating factions. It's nuts. It's nuts. You have to tell people you have a channel, for example, that promotes 100% raw food. Well, you have to make sure that you indicate that this is one of the paths, this is one of the options in veganism, and according to you, this is the best option. But you cannot say, you should not say that the other vegan option is actually bad. That's the bad thing, because not only do you not spread the vegan message, but you destroy you destroy yourself. This is what they don't realize. By saying that, you destroy yourself, because the person who's watching and is not a vegan says to himself or herself, well, what guarantees me that you are right and the other guy is wrong? I always thought that vegans are weird and crazy. Now I know that you are weird and crazy. So I don't even want to try it, because you're just nuts. You can't even agree with one another. This is how people think.
Yeah.
It's wrong. The message is, I'm doing it raw, he's doing it cooked. It doesn't matter. There's a variety of options. You can eat Twinkies. It's not going to make you healthy if you're interested in health. But you're a vegan. Last night, Paul, I have to confess this to you. Last night, I had steamed white rice and green beans. My wife made it for my kids. It looked good. It smelled good. I ate it. I just can't believe that what I ate is poison. It's just, maybe it is. But it's just hard to swallow.
Well,
not the food, but the idea that food is poison.
I think it's particularly relevant you're saying this, Carlo, because you eat a lot of raw food. So I think you're a good person to make this comment. What I would say is that I think people identify, of course, with their personal experience. And I think there are some vegans who, when they go completely raw, they finally reach a place where they no longer have health issues. And so if that's their personal experience, they extrapolate that this must be the best diet. So but I think your point is valid, and it's better if even those folks who have found that it's the best for them, if they can still be open to the possibility that a cooked food diet is perfectly acceptable for others, and that others do well on that. And also this broad theme that you've got to consider if you're talking about moving this vast animal product eating culture over to veganism, you've got to give them choices and think in terms of transition. They've got it's got to be doable, and they're not going to go from McDonald's to completely raw. Most of them, maybe some enthusiastic 20-somethings that come on to this, you know, they're capable of.
You know, raw, 100% raw is very extreme, very extreme. And as you pointed out, you can do it if you're a 20-year-old, you live in your dorm, or you live by yourself with roommates or whatever. I'm a married man. I have 3 children. I will always have food in the house. We're going to have to cook food. If I were a billionaire, maybe I would think about turning the whole family to raw vegans, but you really need millions of dollars. I mean, these people, sometimes I watch these videos, these people are clueless. They obviously don't have children. If you have children, you know what I mean. I have 3. And I have 3. When I go to the store, I buy, and I want to buy organic, and I try to buy organic. These things are expensive. A mango is $3 each, $3 or $4 each. We're 5 mangoes. You do the math. Yesterday, on Friday, is my long day. I have classes all throughout the day. My last class on Friday, I teach from 6 to 8:30 at night. Okay, so in the morning I left Friday morning, and I had 2, you know, those Whole Foods bags, the tote bags. I had 2 bags full of fruit, and I paused for a second, and I looked at my wife, and I laughed, and I said, "Look at this. Looks like grocery shopping. This is my lunch and dinner." It's amazing. I had, you know, if you see me on a subway, you think that I just got out of Whole Foods, but that's my lunch and dinner, because I had 10 bananas, I had 3 or 4 mangoes, 2 melons, I had dates, I had a lot of stuff, a lot of fruit, and and I eat it throughout the day. And come to my office, you see me, oh, you eat all day. Yeah, I eat all day. 1 banana after another. So sometimes, Friday night when I came home, and you have to understand that besides teaching, which burns calories, by the way, you use your mind. Then there's running, because I have to run. And Friday, I remember yesterday, I did 2 workouts, very hard, very hard, at high speed. And when I got home, Paul, I was so hungry. And as I said, you know, my wife had cooked steamed white rice and green beans, zucchini, and peas, because my son likes peas. And I ate some of that. And you know, instead of just eating bananas and bananas and bananas, just ate that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with cooked food. People say, you know, they would come to you and say there's scientific evidence. I don't think so. I don't think there's scientific evidence that proves beyond reasonable doubt that cooked food is toxic. They say it's toxic. Maybe it is. I keep an open mind, but I don't think it is.
Well, you know, a point that
always evidence, really.
Yeah, a point that always appealed to me was that if you consider humans in their natural state prior to any technology, what kind of foods would they be eating, and and if you compare, say, a banana or a melon to a bowl of rice, a bowl of rice is commanding in terms of carbohydrate content, but if you compare it to these other foods in terms of nutrients, it's not as nutrient packed as a fresh piece of fruit or a fresh vegetable. So I don't know. I think the debate is out a little bit. Apparently, we made some genetic modifications while we began cooking, and maybe our stomachs shrank a little bit in relation to primates, and maybe that's associated with hundreds of thousands of years of eating cooked food. But I do think when you cook a food, you do change it. You do render some nutrients indigestible. You do have there's a way to explain. If you've ever been in a laboratory and you've cooked something.
Yes, of course.
If you cook it long enough, you end up with ash. So you could say the cooking process is one that it starts with a whole food, and as the longer you cook it, the closer you get to ash. So
about that, I wanted to make a point that I forgot. I was talking so much, and I forgot to make my point. Maybe before. Yes, cooking, right? As I was saying, I have a big family. Remember, I was saying if you're a 20-year-old, you live in the dorm, that's fine. But when you have a family, the story changes. You can be as gung-ho as you want, but you have to deal with the fact that you have a family. And you have to deal with the fact that when you go to the store, if you buy only fruit, that was my point, you have to be a millionaire. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I need food that lasts. And that's why you have to eat rice, pasta. I mean, at least my kids eat pasta, rice, tofurkey, because they can't just eat fruit. It would be too expensive too. I already spend a lot of money. I would say I probably spend $500 a week in food. Which is insane if you think about it. Insane, because I buy a lot of fruit. But this means that I don't have I don't spend money on other luxuries. For example, I don't have cable. Not that I need it. I don't have cable. I don't have a home phone. I don't have expensive clothes. I don't really need them because I always run, so I'm always up. I wear running clothes. But I don't buy other things that normally people buy. I don't. This summer, for example, I didn't go on vacation.
Yep.
Because health is important to me, veganism is important to me, so I buy a lot of fruit. But man, it's hard if you have a family to be 100% raw.
I agree. Now, something that's coming to mind, and I totally see your point, and I agree with it. But I'll just play devil's advocate for a second. A comment that I've heard from a couple of raw fooders is that if you
don't have children,
I don't think they do. I don't think the two people I'm thinking of do have children. However, what their suggestion is that there's I think it's $1. What is it? Cents per calorie or something like that. There's some kind of mathematical equation.
Yes.
And there are expenses associated with cooked foods, which you could say are not taken into account. For example, there's environmental. Like someone has suggested to me that the carbon produced from cooking is one of the greatest carbon producers on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting notion. And there's also an interesting environmental principle in that if you were to make orchards and fruit production our primary source of food, that would solve so many ecological problems. So that's an interesting argument.
Oh, I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with that. And unfortunately, we're not at that point yet.
Right, right. But
Unfortunately, you have to pay $4 for a mango.
I know, I know. Unless you live in Southern California or this Thailand, you're not gonna, you can't. It's too expensive.
Yeah, it is. It is sad. It's ridiculous how expensive fruit is.
Yeah.
It's fruit. It just and you have a family, you can't do it. It's impossible.
Now, just for clarity, your kids, they want to eat cooked food, right? It's not like they're clamoring to go fully raw, right?
Well, they're not interested in fully raw. They want to eat cooked food. It's also practical for them because you're an adult. You know how to set up your day, organize your day. Like for example, as I said, I bring to work 2 huge bags, right, of fruit. For kids, it would not be logistically would be strange. They go to school. It wouldn't be practical for them.
That's a great point, Carlo. That's a great point. And I've often felt that this is an issue that's little addressed. There is a practicality to dried grains. You can buy a bag of rice and stick it in the cupboard, and you don't have to worry about it getting ripe. And you can cook it up whenever you want, and it'll sit there for a long time.
It gives you a certain amount of calories and satisfaction that you don't have to munch on bananas all day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I can do it because I'm an adult, and but for children it would be completely strange to do it in school.
I don't know if you've seen him, but there's a gentleman, Ka Sundance, who has a raw food family.
Oh yeah, I know him. He has
Yeah.
4 children, I think.
Yeah, and he's a character, man. I mean, he's got a very creative life. He's like
I
traveling around.
understand that he tried the fully raw for his family, and he gave up. He said it just doesn't work because. But the reason I think he said that he thinks, and I agree too, that children need their needs are different from our needs. Okay?
Yeah.
We can go get away with fully raw. Children need, for example, they need more fat than we do.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we're not growing. They are still growing. They need more fat. They need other things that we don't. So I think he gave up that fully raw. Is still a vegan. They're still vegan. But yeah, I know that. I watched 1 or 2 videos. I know the guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, imagine my kids going to elementary school. You don't even have time. They don't even give you time to eat all that. You have 10 minutes to eat lunch. You eat a sandwich, a tofurkey sandwich, a juice, a banana, and then you go back to school. So they would not have time to do it.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. Let me I'm thinking about wrapping this up, Carlo.
Yes.
Yes. You and I can go on forever, but I want to ask you. There was something you referenced earlier, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. And what you suggested was that there's some misinformation out there about running, and I wonder if you could list some of those kind of misconceptions that are being thrown out about running.
One thing that I heard recently in these videos, by the way, made by YouTubers, is that you can run a marathon under 3 hours with very little to no training at all. That's really, for lack of better words, bullshit. Okay, running a marathon is already a big deal. It's a job. It's already hard. Even if you want to walk, I mean, a marathon is 26.2 miles. A lot of people that I know cannot even walk 26 miles. Imagine running. A lot of people I know who are fit or young cannot even jog, just lightly jog for 26 miles. To suggest that you can run a marathon in under 3 hours, which means that you have to run on average every mile around 6 minutes per mile. It's very hard. Now, if you never run, if you're not a runner, you have no idea what it means to run 6 minutes per mile. Think about this: if you're pretty in good shape, good health, and you have jogged before.
Yeah.
What you're going to do is something like 10 minutes per mile, 9.5. If you're fast, but that's becoming fast, 8 minutes per mile. Okay. So think about it. 6 minutes per mile is really, really fast. It's really fast. Most people, it's not even above average. It's way above average. Most people cannot run 6 minutes for 1 mile.
What's the
about 26 miles?
What's the average marathon time? Is it over 4 hours?
Yes, it's well over 4 hours. All right. And we're talking about fit people who run every day. It's 4 hours.
Yeah.
It takes 4 hours. So to run under 3, 250, 240, we're talking about superior athletes. Okay? Because think about the fastest time. I mean, think about it in this term. The fastest times are now, well, they're incredible, by the way. They're 2 hours and 3 minutes. But we're really talking about, we are in a time in history where we're running the fastest marathons ever in history. 2 hours and 3 minutes is something that is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Only the Kenyans can do that. Because first of all, for many reasons, they are very light. A man who runs that stuff in 2 hours and 3 minutes weighs even less than me, talking about 110 or 120 pounds. I'm 130. She's very light. These people are very light. And they've been running for 10 plus years, but not just running like you and me. Not me. I run a lot, but the average person. It's a job. They run every day. They run an average of 130 to 140 miles per week. Okay, so their training is on the edge, because they're always on the edge, on the brink of getting injured, with all those miles. A very extremely strict diet. You don't run a 2-hour marathon just by eating whatever you want, whenever you want. You have schedules. You eat you eat exactly the calories that you need, and actually probably less than you need in order for the body to lose fat, because that's the life of a professional runner. The regular runner enjoys running, The professional runner does it as a job. It's really a job. So there are a lot of sacrifices. Okay. So there's no way that you can run a marathon just by taking it easy, just doing a few miles a week, 5, 10 miles a week. It's not true. You have to work hard. It's 26 miles. You really have to work hard, and you have to teach your body basically to endure for 26 and better and above miles. And how do you do that? By running a lot and by reaching those mileage. You know, the over 20 miles runs.
Yeah.
Because you have to produce the neuromuscular pathways, right, that teach your body to do that task. You know, you have to teach your body to do that task. And if you don't run that much, you just can't do it. This is one of the misconceptions.
I think it's an important point you're making, and I guess one thing that I think, at least with Durian Ryder and Freely, what they're trying to do when he talks about consistency and long term, you know, they're pushing this theme, which is, I think, healthy in some respects, because a lot of people who do get into this for dietary reasons and losing weight reasons, they're often in this short-term kind of dynamic, and I think he's encouraging people to realize that a healthier approach is consistent, thoughtful exercise over time,
Right.
rather than short bursts of excessive, like you were saying, above the heart rate, you know, straining yourself. But I also think sometimes he's a bit misleading in the way he characterizes his own physical ability, where he says, "I'm not doing that much." I think when he says that, he's comparing himself to professional athletes. You know,
But then again, that's another misconception, because professional athletes don't eat 20 bananas a day. It's just not true. That's what he says, and other people say. Professional athletes, we're talking about runners, the pro runners that I know do not eat those calories. They do not. Durian Ryder claims to eat 4, 5, 6,000, 7,000 calories a day. Professional runners do not eat as many calories as he says, and he does. If he does, I don't know. They just don't. It doesn't work that way. In fact, you don't have to take my word for it. Just ask professional runners if they'll tell you. I watch them, I see them, I know them. Some of them, I know what they do. And in their program, in their training, they get off the carbs, for example. Whereas, you know, Durian Ryder promotes carbs, 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 carbs. You should. That's the fuel. You have to eat a lot of carbs. But a lot of these professional runners, it might be to you as a surprise, but they sometimes go low on carbs for the same reason that I told you before, because they have to teach number one, they have to teach their body to be economical, to burn the fat rather than the glycogen. Okay, so they have to remove the carbs, and also to get stronger, because you produce a stress to the body. The body says, "Oh my God, I don't have glycogen, I don't have food, I don't have a lot of gas, so I have to learn to be economical, and I have to get stronger, and I have to get stronger because next time I'm going to have to run the same mileage without that amount of food." So
can you explain this to me, Carlo? Because my basic knowledge of this is that if
Yes.
a runner runs out of glycogen in a long race, they do what's called bonking, right? They hit the wall, and can you describe what that's about? And I guess this phenomena you were just explaining is part of training, whereby you extend the body's capacity to I guess you postpone bonking by increasing the body's capacity to operate this way.
It's like, you know, compare that to cars. Okay, you have two cars. One burns, I don't know, 5 gallons of gas per mile, and the second car is better, so it burns 3 gallons per mile. Okay.
Okay.
And then you have the same car, but it's a professional car, a professional runner, right? And it burns 2 gallons per mile. How do you do that? By training your body to do that.
Okay.
So the first car that burns 5 gallons per mile is going to bonk at one point. The third one that burns 2 is not going to bonk easily because, so we're going back to runners, because the runner in question taught his body or her body to be economical, to use gas, okay, to basically to do the same performance, to run just as fast as another runner, but burn less. And the way you teach that is sometimes by not really calorie restricting. I wouldn't use that term, but by limiting the amount of calories that you put in your body, and limiting the amount of carbs and glycogen that you put in your body. Because, as I said, you don't give your body all that glycogen. That's the idea. Okay, you don't give your body all that glycogen. Your body is gonna be stressed, and the stress is gonna give you a response. The response is of the body. Think about it. I better learn how to use this amount of glycogen to run 26 miles. That's basically the principle. But if you feed the body and you give a lot of glycogen, then you're not going to produce that stress and that response. That's why professional runners don't eat 4,000, 5,000 calories a day, 7,000 calories a day. They eat just enough to survive. You don't like it? I'm not saying that it's healthy. You see, that's the point. Now, what Durian Rider is saying is you want to be healthy, eat a lot of glycogen, eat a lot of carbs. It's good. I agree with him. I'm not disagreeing. But don't say that professional runners do that, because they don't. But you're going to say to me, Paul, but then professional runners are not healthy. Yes, they're not. They don't care about health. They care about winning the marathon and getting money, because they're broke. They're Africans. Most of these guys are Africans. They have nothing in their country. All they have is the sponsor and the money they win in a race. That's their job. They don't do it for fun. So it has nothing to do with health. But I think this is a pretty much understood concept, that many athletes are not healthy. They're fit. They are ready to do the job, but they're not necessarily healthy. Look at the fastest marathoner, the fastest woman, Dina Castor. Okay, she looks like a skeleton. I don't think she looks healthy. I don't think she is healthy, but she's the fastest marathoner. Look at the women marathoners, the fastest marathoners. They don't even look like women. They look like brooms. I don't think they're necessarily healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, after all, what's healthy about it? Jogging is healthy, but what's healthy about running 140 miles a week? I don't think is very healthy. So that's one of the other things that I hear on just thrown there, in these videos by YouTubers, which is not accurate. Professional runners do what they do. They're not healthy, not necessarily healthy. Okay, they don't do what they do in the best interest of their health, but in the best interest of their performances.
Yeah, I think that's
and a lot of that involves restricting calories.
Well, it's a great point. Once again, I think one of the motivations behind this Durian Riders of high caloric intake is this demographic of girls wanting to lose weight who have anorexic, bulimic tendencies, have what could be characterized as unhealthy body image, and they're not eating enough. And I think also they ran into, especially when they were promoting pretty much 100% raw, they ran into a lot of people who ran into problems because they did not eat enough. So
yes. It's very easy to not eat enough.
So I think
it's funny. It's funny that
if you mean if you're
if you want to do a completely raw diet, it's easy to undereat. Sometimes I think about it, Paul. A banana is roughly 100 calories.
Yeah.
Banana, and sometimes I count. This is why I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know the science of calories. I think it's more complicated than we think, because I have 10 bananas here, and it's 1,000 calories, right? But I eat 10 bananas, and I'm still hungry. What gives, right? I'm eating the amount of calories that I'm supposed to eat. Then after the 10 bananas, I eat other things. And what's the story? You're still hungry. Well, it's not the whole story about calories. It's not just the number of calories.
Yeah.
So
you're reminding me. You're reminding me of Swayze Foster, who was eating a ton of fruit, not getting satisfied. Then she added in significant number of greens, and her appetite decreased, and she became satisfied. So I think it can be a nutrient issue.
Yes. So, but the point is, it's easier to undereat, and it's easier to you see, it's easy to abandon that diet because you don't feel satisfied.
Yeah.
And it's just not used to just make videos and say, no, you have to stick to it. You have to eat more, eat more. I don't know. Some people just don't want to eat more bananas.
Yeah.
As I said before, there are many reasons why.
I watched a video last night. Young girl, excellent video. She'd been raw for like 2 years, and there were still issues she was having, and so she decided to try the starch solution thing, and she says it's been great. It solved all the problems she had. So I guess she's kind of doing a raw till 4 thing, with starches, and now she feels great. So while I understand that some people feel best on a completely raw thing, there's obviously people who feel best on a cooked food, modified raw, so.
And our point was that there are many channels that spread the word that cooked food is poison. is toxic. It's I don't know. I don't know what to say about this.
Yeah, I don't think it serves any useful purpose to do that.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And besides that, um, what they say, what they do, is what I call what is known as bro science. Not real science. I don't think that there is real science backing up those statements that cooked food is toxic. Um,
Yeah.
so what they do, they do it on a basis of um, other YouTubers. I mean, I understand Doug Graham, for example, says that I think he wrote a book, right? Grain damage,
Grain, grain damage. Yep.
brain damage.
I have it. I have it.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Good.
so it's, I mean, what it suggests is, when you cook these grains, if you look at it through this lens, Carlo, of what we would eat in nature, then his perspective becomes clear, because you would not eat wheat in its natural state. You wouldn't go out and make a meal out of wheat on the stalk. You wouldn't do it. Uh, you wouldn't, and even tubers, potatoes on their own in their raw state, it's unlikely you'd make a meal out of them. I think you could maybe do it with sweet potatoes,
But
but
you know what, Paul? One day we have to. I think if we talk again, we're going to have to dedicate uh, the whole talk to this idea. You know, I've been thinking about it. I've been giving a lot of thought to this idea that for some reason I think it's too simplistic. There's more to be said about this. The idea that um, you just offered, that we are supposed to eat as if we so reproduce natural circumstances,
right,
like when we were in the state of nature.
right.
I thought about this idea. There's something wrong about it that I can't definitely put my finger on it, but I think it's intuitively right. It sounds right, but I don't think it's totally right. You know, for one thing, what does that mean that we human beings right now, the way at the stage of evolution that we are, we should eat like our ancestors, about whom we know very little. We don't really know what they were eating. I mean, they're probably eating dead animals. They were eating bugs. How do you know that they weren't eating, starving, and they were eating potatoes, in fact, or grains? But then another aspect of this that is not totally convincing to me, is the fact that what is the natural way? I mean, how do you establish what natural way is? Because
Well,
after all, we are evolved primates, and it is in fact part of our evolution, cooking food. One might argue that in fact the fact that we cooked food is one of the factors that brought us here where we are at our level of technological level and scientific level and intellectual level. So this is why I'm not totally convinced by that argument that we should reproduce the natural way of eating. You know, I'm not sure. I hope you're following me. I'm clear about what I want to say.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I don't know. I've always found it a very strong argument, but it does seem that um, it doesn't work for everyone. So that to me is an indication that perhaps there are some adaptations that have happened genetically. You know, I think we cooked food for about 100,000 years. Um, that's that's a long time, but it's not super long if you compare it to how long we were evolving in tropical uh, regions. You know, and if you consider us in a tropical environment, you could imagine an environment where you wouldn't have to rely on potatoes or rice because you know you've been to, I don't know if you've been to Costa Rica or maybe Thailand, you know.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. So the fruit in those places, the fruit is so plentiful that
Yeah.
you could conceivably live off that. And I think one of the arguments is that as man evolved and moved out of these tropical regions and didn't have access to these more natural food sources, he began to adapt, and he became able to render other foods which would not normally be edible. He was able through technology to make these foods edible.
Yeah. Paul, have you ever read? I hope you did, and I think you did. The Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel.
I've heard about that. I have not read it. I hear it's excellent. Yeah.
Well, I would say I was going to say I suggest you read it, but you don't have to read the whole book, which is this thick. It's I think over 400 pages. If you're interested, you should. I think that there's a YouTube documentary made by Jared Diamond, and
Okay.
you get the same deal that you get in the book, so you don't have to read the 400 pages and plus pages. I mean that's I think is related with what we're talking about, because it's a very compelling argument. I'm not saying that I agree 100% with Jared Diamond, but it's a very compelling argument. What basically is, right? I'm sure you know the basic premise of the book is that the thesis of the book, which is that Westerners dominate the world, okay, and not the other way around, because of what we ate, because of biogeographical aspects.
Yeah.
Luck, because we were born in a specific part of the world where we had grains, we had certain foods, and the grains could be transported from one part to the other part, you know, and so on. And that's why we dominate the world. That's why Western world is so dominant. That's why you don't see Africans, for example, dominate the world, right? Because they are, unfortunately, they were born, Jared Diamond says, in a part of the world where they have only certain foods. For example, they didn't have important grains like barley and whatever else, right?
Well, it's interesting that you say dominate the world, and I think there's a lot of truth to what you're pointing to, but I would also say maybe a not so pleasant side of this is.
Oh no. Well,
it's the Western inclination to rule.
Oh yeah, that could be it. That's one of the factors that, right? The psychological factor, the mental factor that, of course, Jared Diamond doesn't discuss. But my point was, it's an interesting argument because what it says is, what it tries to prove is that if you have grains, certain amount of grains, and also animals, okay, that you can. Well, one of the points that Diamond makes is animals that not only can you eat them, but also use them to milk. For example, certain he talks about certain civilizations that had only pigs, and you can't milk a pig; you can only eat it, right? But if you have goats, you make clothes, you make milk, cheese, food, meat. So you have more. You have more surplus, and you can develop rapidly, more rapidly than other civilizations. But my point was, so you see, that's what allowed us to. I mean, this is not a new idea, you know, but grains are exactly what allowed us to be here. So that's another reason why that argument, the naturalistic argument, you know, let's call it that we should eat like our ancestors, is dubious to me. I used to think there was a compelling argument, not anymore. I think it's something strange about it, because what if our bodies really adapted to what we are today thanks to grains? And so how do we really know that we're meant to eat grains, or we are meant to eat only raw food just because our ancestors, if it is true, ate raw food? I mean, it's obviously, yes, go ahead.
The major evidence for me on that is some of these folks who have found through personal experience that when they transition from a cooked vegan diet to a raw vegan diet, they experienced a lot of success and improvement. So while that's not universal, it's common enough to imply that there is some benefit, at least for significant numbers, to go completely raw. That there's evidence of that. You know, Loren Lockman, he was a cooked food vegan for I think 5 years before he went raw. Grant Campbell was vegetarian vegan before he went raw. You know, a lot of these raw fooders were themselves cooked food vegans at one time. And
I hear that all the time.
yeah, so they've experienced it, and so you know, somebody like Grant Campbell, he said when he went raw, I think Michael Arnstein, going raw increased their performance tremendously.
But I thought Arnstein ate fish.
I don't think so. I don't. I think he's pretty much 100% raw. If he ever goes off that, it's on rare occasions. So I mean,
I heard that he occasionally eats fish, raw fish.
Maybe, I don't know. But I recently saw a thing where he was agonizing over the fact he'd eaten some cooked string beans. So I think he's pretty high raw.
Right, but that's why raw fish, not cooked fish. That's what I heard. I don't know.
I doubt that, Carlo. I doubt that.
I think he said that. He made that statement.
Okay.
But, you know, but that's also that I wanted to talk about that. That also, it's a strange thing, because I hear a lot of people saying when I went fully raw, I improved. I mean, how do you really quantify that? Is it really true that if you are 100% raw, you feel better, you are better off? I'm not sure of that either. I'm not sure of that.
All right.
You eat cooked food, right?
I do. And
you feel well.
Pardon?
And you're healthy. You feel well.
Yes, I do. I do feel well.
I'm not sure what they mean when they say, you know, if you go completely raw, it's better. You feel better.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you're pretty much all raw yourself. One of the things I hear is that the recovery time after a long distance run is there is no, it's like there's no need for recovery time. That's what I've heard, which is different than if you're a cooked food vegan.
Yeah, but also that, you see, the recovery time is tricky. It's not that simplistic. It depends on many factors. It depends on maybe your genetics, I don't know, but it also depends on your level of training. When I go for a run with my wife, she doesn't run as much as I do, obviously. I run. Let's say we run 10 miles, 8 miles or 10 miles. In the afternoon I'm back to running, and I don't feel anything. It's like I took a walk through the park. But her legs are sore, and they're sore the next day, and it takes 2 days to recover.
But you're attributing that to your training. But is it possible? Right. Is it possible that?
So my point is, these people who say you recover faster, I'm not sure what they mean. They have to be specific, because you really have to do experiments here. You know, same diet, same person, same amount, same mileage, same intensity. And then you can say at the end, well, when I was completely raw, it took me 5 hours to recover. When I ate some rice, it's difficult. I don't think you can really say that. I don't know how they say that their recovery is faster. I hope you're following what I'm saying.
I do, but let me ask you a question. Why did you personally gravitate towards a predominantly raw diet? What made you?
Mainly for the fact that eating raw, meaning eating lots of fruit, gives you simple sugars that go fast in your muscles, and also you don't have to your body doesn't have to take hours to digest.
Yeah. So I mean, right there. Those are powerful reasons.
That's true, but there are other aspects. Those are not the only factors.
And let me say, Carlo, I love the fact that you're pretty much raw, and yet you are open to someone eating cooked food. I love that. That's what we need. I think that's what we need.
For one thing. I'm open to cooked food because, as I told you many times, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is not eating animals. So I don't care if you eat white rice or brown rice. And the other reason is because I'm not totally convinced until I get, the kind of evidence required by my mind to be convinced that cooked food is toxic or is bad or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not totally convinced. So that's why I think there's nothing wrong with cooked food. And I'm open-minded. I'm not dogmatic about it, like certain people say. No. I heard people say you eat that rice gives you mucus. Where do they get these things from? What cooked food gives you mucus, and then you have to? Come on.
Well, now wait a minute. There's an old book, and this guy, I don't know if you've ever read it. It was his book used to float around in some of the health food stores, and his name was Arnold Ehret. Arnold Ehret.
No, I don't read those kinds of books. That kind of literature.
Well, he was an interesting guy, Carlo. He promoted what he called a mucusless diet. A mucusless diet.
Yeah, but I'm aware of these books. But I was not aware that eating rice or eating certain foods produce mucus. Where is this mucus? Because sometimes I eat rice, but I don't feel.
That's a good point. I mean,
maybe I don't eat it maybe I don't eat rice as often as other people because I eat it once in a while.
I mean, you know what you know who you should talk to is Ben Beeler. He's a raw fooder, and he says that for him, if he has rice, he gets really negative reactions when he eats rice. So
I believe it. I believe it.
yeah.
People get different reactions with different foods. But anyway, you know, to get to a concrete point, basically, of our discussions, what we're trying to accomplish with this discussion, I think, is to wake up people and people. Look what are you doing, vegans? You are discrediting the vegan culture by fighting against each other, criticizing each other. This is bad, that is worse, this is good, this is the only way. Not very productive, not very helpful in a way of bringing more people to the vegan culture. This was our theme, right, of the discussion.
Right, right.
So, and my theme, as I always say, is don't lose the you know, the point that being a vegan means it's an ethical stand, okay? It's an ethical lifestyle, which means that you do not want to support the exploitation and murder of animals. So don't forget that point when you make videos, when you promote the vegan diet. That's the main force. Then of course you can do it for health, as we discussed. But remember, it's not just a diet. Not just a diet.
I love that point, Carlo. And yeah, and I would add, as when we're in the vegan community, let's discuss our various viewpoints with mutual respect, and we can use respectful language and respectfully disagree, and we can put forward logical, grounded, scientific, experiential reasons why we take the positions we do without demeaning someone else, and also let's not make sweeping, vast generalizations about topics that we don't have the full picture on, i.e., someone committing suicide. You know, none of us is in that guy's head. To say that he died because he wasn't carved up is absurd. You know, and to throw someone's life work of healing people and fasting people and converting them to veganism, and to throw that person's life's work in the trash can because you're not personally advocating fasting, that doesn't help. That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. It shows, as I pointed out earlier, it shows to non-vegans the stereotypical, I would say, the bad side, stereotypical aspect of vegans and veganism.
Yeah.
And that's why people don't like us. People resist to this idea of veganism. This is why people laugh at you when you say you are a vegan. This is why people think vegans are silly. They have no point. I mean, sometimes I had discussion with some of my colleagues who are academics, and they say to me, I don't see any point, any valuable or valid point of being a vegan. And these are academics. That's why, because they see, they view vegans are as
Extreme.
people, extreme people. They want to do it because they want to be different. They view veganism as a trend. And then what do they do? For those who go on YouTube and say to themselves, well, let's give it a try. Let's see what veganism is all about. They Google. What do they find? They find these big names that we named before earlier. And what are their videos about? Are they videos about veganism? Not so much. Are videos about criticizing other vegans, criticizing people, or extreme ideas like smoothies, meals made of 30 bananas, 30 dates, and a pound of sugar. They're completely absurd for some people. And I think this is the reason, the main reason why we don't see the world changing at the rate, at the speed that we want to. Because, number one, this is my opinion, because number one, we continue promoting veganism as a diet. And number two, we can't even agree with each other. The raw foodists say the cooked vegans are crazy. They eat in poison. So the non-vegan, I'm a non-vegan. Who should I believe? Who's telling the truth? I better go back to my sad diet because I know what I get at least. That's the bottom line.
I think it's a valid point, Carlo.
Very, very sad. It's very sad because I know that I know because I'm a human being too. I'm a part of our species. I'm a member of our species, and I know that all human beings deep inside have a sense of morality. It has to be awakened. It has to be awakened. It was put to sleep by society, but it has to be awakened. It's there, and once you wake it up, you realize that you have to be a vegan. There's no other choice. And so we have to do it the right way. And we will see change. We will see change in the world. We will see the rate of the number of vegans multiply.
I like it, Carlo. I like it. Listen, we have I hope we had a great discussion. We always do, and I'm grateful to you for taking the time, Carlo. Hello there,
George.
George, how's it going, man?
Good.
All right.
What do you say about the vegan diet, George?
It's good.
It's
Why
good.
is it
Because it's yummy.
because it's yummy.
That's good. That's the key reason.
This is the other one.
Hello there.
This is the one who says I'm a fruitarian. Are you a fruitarian, John? What fruit do you like? Jackfruit.
All right, John. All right.
Ah,
Mango.
mango,
Blueberry.
blueberries.
Strawberry.
What else? And you like being a vegan?
That's great, John. That's great. You know, I've never had jackfruit. I need to try it. Never had
Oh,
it.
really? Never had it?
No.
It's not easy to find, I have to say, and it's expensive.
And I've never had durian either. So.
Oh, the durian, you have to try it.
Yeah.
But it tastes like fart. No, seriously, it tastes like, did you ever have roasted garlic?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine roasted garlic and sautéed onions, caramelized onions.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a pound of sugar. That's what it tastes like.
Weird.
Like
Weird.
onion and garlic. It's like you're eating garlic,
Weird.
sweet garlic. It's a very strange fruit.
Yeah.
The jackfruit, on the other hand, jackfruit it's really amazing.
Ah.
It tastes like bubble gum.
Wow.
I have Chinatown here in New York City. I find it there. Sometimes they have it at Whole Foods, and we buy it. Yeah, John likes it a lot because it tastes like bubble gum.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
I think I've heard that, like juicy fruit gum. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right. Carlo, thank you so much, Carlo.
okay.
Always a pleasure.
Is the what? How does it work? Is this talk going to be posted on your channel?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a long talk.
I know. I'm gonna stop the broadcast.